How's it going, guys? It's Kass. As always, if you've been enjoying my content, then hit that subscribe button. So with the new patch coming out this week, I've decided that I'm going to be speeding up some of the videos and trying to get them out as soon as I can, so then you guys know which way you should be going for the new legendaries. This is going to be the first of probably 3 videos going through all of these changes, is going to be the Darkglare Medallion change. Now this is one that initially I thought was extremely interesting and thought the buff was actually very, very strong. And then I started thinking about it more and more, and slowly started to realize that maybe it's not as good as I thought it was. So I went through some testing, and obviously I ran into the same issues that Cycle of Hatred currently has, with the issues with Furious Gaze and it not stacking. If you want to learn more about that, there is a video that I made prior talking about how to fix Furious Gaze and talking about the main issues with it currently. So you can look in the link in the description. There'll be a link to that video if you want a little bit more in-depth discussion about it. However, TLDW of that video is basically that since Furious Gaze doesn't stack, it leads to situations where you have I-beam up, but you don't actually want to press the I-beam because you will lose out on Furious Gaze uptime. So there's basically a trade-off that you have to weigh between getting resets from Cycle of Hatred or getting the maximum amount of Furious Gaze that you can possibly get. So that's kind of the issues that this legendary also has. Basically what the legendary does is every single time you press I-beam, there's a 40% chance it's refunded, so there's no more cooldown for it, and it's back up to be pressed again. And it also refunds the fury cost of the I-beam. So the main thing to point out here is going to be something I'm going to show here. Whenever we play Demon Hunter, we always want to start by using our I-beam at the very beginning of the fight to get the Furious Gaze uptime. Then we want to meta. The meta resets I-beam also. So in those situations, you can't actually be pressing your I-beam right away after you meta, or else you're going to lose out on a majority of the Furious Gaze from the first I-beam. That basically makes it so you can't get any of the Cycle of Hatred refund in those windows because the I-beam is back up. Now, if we fast forward here to when I press the second I-beam, you're going to see the same situation. The I-beam is up, the Furious Gaze starts, and now my I-beam is off cooldown, but if I press the I-beam, I'm going to lose out on the majority of those Furious Gaze stacks. Basically making it so every single time you get the refund, if you're playing Cycle of Hatred, it's actually worse. And so I've decided then to just run some more testing to see what actually the differences are between playing Cycle of Hatred without this legendary and with this legendary, and just playing it with only the legendary. And that's really when it started to get interesting. Whenever we think about that legendary, if we're just playing Cycle of Hatred here, we would get 13 I-beams. And if you think about it, 40% of 13 is actually, let me just do the math real quick. It should be, of 13, should be 5.2 extra I-beams. So this should be closer to 18. However, in my testing, we were getting only 15 I-beams in those situations just because of the amount of actual downtime that we have when Cycle of Hatred is not being used because of the overlap of Furious Gaze. So basically what this means is instead of getting 18 I-beams every 4 minutes in a 4-minute window with meta at the beginning of the fight, we're now getting significantly less in a lot of the situations, by like nearly 3, which in those situations is taking the legendary from being like a 40% chance back down to being a 20% chance. This legendary with Cycle of Hatred is actually worse. Whenever using this with only whenever not using the legendary with Cycle of Hatred, we do get less I-beams overall. However, it opens up a chance to be able to use a different legendary that's going to account for significantly more damage. If we only use Darkglare Medallion in those situations, it's basically as good as using Darkglare Medallion with Cycle of Hatred in some situations, which is crazy. You're basically not using a talent, or you're getting access to a different talent with the legendary and getting almost the same value out of the combination of the two. It's bizarre how this gets put into the game, and it's something that I've been talking about for a very long time. As long as Furious Gaze does not stack, Cycle of Hatred will just be worse in a lot of situations. And the main thing here is that if the argument is, oh, if it did stack, Cycle of Hatred would be too good, then make it so the Furious Gaze time goes down with Cycle of Hatred or something like that, and it stacks, or just generally make it so it stacks and it's instead of a 12-second duration, it's only like a 9-second duration. Some of these small changes would just make Demon Hunter significantly better and make these items that you're investing time in to get more playability overall. And that's really what's the most frustrating about these changes, is that this legendary could be extremely strong. However, it doesn't really make sense to use it unless you're not going for an I-beam centric build, which is just so counterintuitive. I think it still could potentially have some playability in some single target situations. It could still be good, but with the way that the game is currently implemented, the potential for this legendary to be extremely good is just not there. And that falls on the issues with Furious Gaze. As always, if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like the video, F5 refresh, try it again. Maybe you like it the second time. Have a good one.